You ever walk into your house, open the fridge, and realize that somebody's been eating your food? Now, imagine that your fridge is the depth chart, the leftovers are your returning production, and the guy that's eating it, he just hit the portal from 3 schools ago. This is not recruiting. This is Craigslist with cleats. This is Amazon Prime for linebackers. It's a national garage sale where your quarterback can be bought out by breakfast time and hit the road by the time we get to brunch. The transfer portal was supposed to be a second chance. Now it's open season. HBCU football is always something that we should be locked in and paying attention to. So I'm going to give you the post of everything that's going on. And later in the show, we're going to talk about Eric, Devin Dampier and why he can be a focal point for this Utah Utes program in 2025. If you wanted to know your new plug for everything college football, making sure you're tapped in with every and all teams, you just found it. Let's go. Wrld of CFB. What's up, everybody? I appreciate you tuning in on this glorious day. We are getting into another World of College Football episode, and it couldn't be done better than without the help of CFB Nation that sponsors every and all streams that we do. And special shout out to the lovely Bet US. They take care of us to make sure that we're always good. Today, we're going to be talking about HBCU football and the post of everything going on. We're going to be talking about the Utah Utes and their program and why nobody fears Utah anymore. And I'm going to make a claim that even though they are not feared in 2025, they're not worried about that. They're just worried about being consistent and it being a step above what 5 wins did them last year. But can't do it without telling you that all of the love that y'all been showing for the show has been amazing. Keep it up, keep sharing. And that's across this whole entire CFB Nation umbrella. Want to make sure that y'all know that. And as we get closer to the college football season starting in less than 90 days, we're going to keep you locked in and loaded. And we're going to give you everything you need because we are the only college football destination that you need. Coming up first on Around the World, let's take a look at the post of HBCU football from rising playoff hopes to new classics. You can't talk about the soul of college football without mentioning the HBCU game. And while most folks wait until September to pay attention and tune in, click the remote, those who know, they know. HBCU football never sleeps. It always evolves. It always posts. And it responds to the culture, and their culture responds right back to you. From transport portal headlines and shakeups to coaching changes that we have, from playoff reform to classic game launches that we have on the horizon, this offseason is shaping up to be anything but quiet. It's explosive, and it's setting the table for one of the most defining seasons in HBCU history. So let's talk about it and take a trip to Houston, Texas, where Caleb Johnson is going to bring some swagger and some stability to the Texas Southern program. And for Texas Southern, the quarterback position hasn't just been a revolving door, it's been an identity crisis. They tried it all. They tried young arms, transfers, dual threats, but nothing stuck. And that might be about to change. Enter Caleb Johnson, a former Louisville signee and Alabama high school state champ out of Clay Chalkville. His path has been anything besides a straight line linear. He bounced from Power Fives to JUCOs to blend. Then he went to Kennesaw State. But with every stop, he continued to grow and develop. And now he finds himself in a situation in Houston. He walks into a program desperate for production and presence at the quarterback position. It's a match in a marriage made in heaven. Might as well put the ring on now. Start cashing out like Travis Hunter. And the moment couldn't be more perfect. Jace Wilson is out. He's no longer there. Chris Dishman in year 2 needs a signal caller who can not only run the show, but he can change the show. Texas Southern ranked dead last in the SWAC in 2024, but they only had 117 passing yards per game. That's not just a problem. That's a program defining liability, but that's about to change. He doesn't need to be perfect, bro. He just needs to be consistent. And if he is, Texas Southern's trajectory is going to change overnight. And most people are unaware that it's going on. Let's take a trip to Daytona Beach, Florida, where Bethune-Cookman's offense has been searching for some juice, something to fear, something to make teams scared to circle them on their calendar. And this offseason, they may have found their answer. Enter Amari Jones, and he's headed to Daytona. He's a former FIU Panther and a South Carolina State Bulldog. He's 6'3", 225 pounds, and probably the most physically imposing passers in this HBCU portal cycle. His dual threat ability, he's going to make plays out of nothing and turn anything into a possibility. And his path, it's one defined by growth, just like the gentleman we talked about earlier, Mr. Caleb Johnson. It doesn't have to be a linear growth pattern. It just has to be something that can work in his favor. And this is something that can work in his favor. This move doesn't just check a box for Amari Jones. This checks a box for BCU too, because it signals intention. Raymond Woody Jr. is tired of being overlooked and cast to the wayside. And now he has a quarterback whose first game of the season is poetic. He has a return trip to Florida International University, FIU. Homecoming, perfect opportunity to make a statement. That's a narrative watch that you have to pay attention to. Bethune-Cookman's offense ranked near the bottom in every measurable category in 2024. With Jones at the controls, the Wildcats now have a shot not at just survival, but at national relevance. Let's take a trip to Huntsville, Alabama, and talk about Mekhi Hagans. The SWAC quarterback carousel just got a new twist in this movie. Mekhi Hagans, the former Arkansas Pine Bluff gunslinger, some people will say superstar, who lit up defenses for over 2.5K yards and 16 touchdowns last year, has officially taken his talents to Alabama A&M. It's a massive win for this program and a massive win for first-year Bulldogs head coach Sam Shade, who brings with him a lot of momentum from a D2 playoff run at Miles. And Shade, he's not in Huntsville just to try to rebuild this program slow, efficient, methodical. Nah, he's here to win like right now. And Hagans is your first signal to know, okay, he's not playing games. And Hagans, this might be his fast track into relevance because this fit makes sense. Hagans brings instant credibility to this team and to this offense, and his decision to leave Lamar and land with A&M, I think it signals a greater belief in Sam Shade's system and his vision for this program. CFB Nation key metric for you. Mekhi Hagans topped 200 passing yards in 8 different games last season. No Alabama quarterback from A&M did that more than 4 times over the course of the season. That's not just an upgrade for you, honey. It's a system shift. And Alabama A&M fans, you just got a shot in the arm. Let's take a look at Orangeburg, South Carolina, where South Carolina State fresh off a MEAC championship, is reloading, but doing it after the collapse of Limestone. When Limestone University shut its doors, finally, it didn't just close the chapter, it opened a new one for South Carolina State. You might be thinking, how? Well, the MEAC champions pounced on this opportunity and they landed two defensive linemen with real upside, Sean Brown and Jackson Chavis. Now, Sean Brown racked up 42 tackles, 6.5 tackles for a loss last season. And Chavis, he's a two-time Sports States champion, and he's just going to bring raw explosiveness for you on the defensive line. He has a motor that can't really be contained. And for head coach Chenus Berry, who's quietly taking South Carolina State University back into a trench-driven juggernaut on the defensive and offensive lines, this was just a portal steal, the ultimate heist. Now, the emotion, it met the need. The youth, it met the urgency. These aren't just going to be additions that you look in and it's like, oh, this is just a great pickup for you, Moon. Nah, these are going to be ballers that come in and hopefully turn into anchors on the defensive line for them. Let's take a trip to Nashville, Tennessee, in a city built on rhythm and soul. Tennessee State just added a backfield baseline by the name of Kendrick Rhymes. Now, he ran for 702 yards last year, added 8 touchdowns at Southern University, home of the Jaguars. And they are in a situation where they're losing a former Big South OVC champion. Tennessee State had a season of a lifetime last year with head coach Eddie George before he ultimately left to Bowling Green. But this is a team that hasn't won a conference crown since 1999. Reggie Barlow is changing that. And Mr. Rhymes is coming in to a situation where he's not going to be just a rotational guy. He's the type of tone-setting dude that could take over the game with 20 touches, and you look up at his stat line, and you'd be like, Kendrick Rhymes did what? Yeah. This is his statement move. This is his last ride. And sometimes that's all that needs to be said. Let's take a trip to Jackson, Mississippi, and talk about Jackson State, because they're not just rebuilding. They are recharging. You would think that the HBCU national champions, fresh off of a title, might just slow down a little bit, take their foot off the gas, coast. But this program is not slowing down. They are embracing the grind. And in Jackson, TC Taylor is quietly stacking a coaching staff that is just as strategic as it is seasoned. Justin Sanders is joining as the DB's coach, and he's fresh off of stints at Charlotte and at TSU. Aaron Jackson is going to slide in on a defensive line in a role, and Mario Magnana Jr. is going to be elevated to director of player personnel. And we look at all these moves, it's not flashy, and it's not going to be eye-popping on a stat sheet, but the people that know, this is surgical. Grey's Anatomy surgical. Jackson State finished top 20 nationally in 13 different categories defensively last year, including 3rd in passing efficiency defense and 6th in scoring defense. This staff already doesn't just coach. They fortify talent and they develop. You add more additions to that coaching staff, Jackson State ain't playing around, man. Let's talk about Division II playoff expansion, because they aren't the only ones. The big boys and the FBS aren't the only ones that should be getting all the love. For years, the CIAA and the SIAC champions had to fight through each other, head-to-head combat, just to make a run at a title. But that era is finally over, and we don't have to worry about that no more. The NCAA has expanded the Division II football playoffs from 22 to 32 teams, 28 to 32 teams, and each HBCU D2 league now gets an automatic bid to the playoffs. Now, Virginia Union made the quarterfinals last year. Shout out to Virginia Union. Miles College won his first playoff game. Shout out to Miles College. And now both leagues have a real path to the trophy. Can you imagine? Clark Atlanta fans. All you got to do is win the league, win the conference, and you get into the playoffs. With all this added noise and playoff exposure and playoffs rising, this is going to increase funding and add and inject life into the funding. And $150 daily per diems for players, this is more than access. This is finally steps forward to respect. And that's what you need to see. Let's take a trip to Jacksonville, Florida, that is. On September 13th, Jacksonville will host something that it's never seen before. Out in Duval County, Edward Waters and Virginia Union will meet in the inaugural Unity Classic, a CIAA and SIAC showdown that's bigger than just the box score and has everything to do with what I just talked about with the Division II playoffs expanding. This game is going to be all about legacy. It's going to be about culture, and it's going to be about voice. Scholarships are going to be awarded on site. Concerts are going to be held. Communities are going to come together. And this isn't just another regular season matchup that you're going to get at the beginning of the year. This one is something that you're going to have to circle and remember because it's going to be a movement out there in Jacksonville. And as Reverend Dr. R.B. Holmes Jr. would say, this is a classic that is speaking directly to the significance of HBCUs and the culture that resides within. Let's take a trip to Shreveport, Louisiana, because we have another opportunity to talk about growth and exposure, because some games are about history. Some games are about home. And this one is about both. Grambling is going to return to Shreveport for the season opener in the Shreveport Kickoff Classic against Langston, a revival of the historic Red River State Fair Classic, which was a doozy to talk about. Now, the G-Men are 5-1 all time against Langston. They got their head up like they're running away in the race, and 16-3-1 in games played in Shreveport. So Shreveport is their dominating spot, and they haven't lost there since 1995. Even though this is in a neutral field, this is Grambling's house, and I totally expect the fans to show up there loud in the season opener in Louisiana. Whether it's Jackson State's calculated reload, Bethune-Cookman's quarterback awakening, or the D2 playoffs, the landscape is finally shifting and catching up with the champions. One truth still remains more than anything, my friend. From Daytona to Houston, from Shreveport to Orangeburg, the movement is growing louder and louder than ever, and no longer are we waiting for a seat at the table. No longer. It's time for us to build our own. This is the Pulse of HBCU Football, and this is the World of College Football. Special shout out to you and yours for watching on this another amazing day, another episode that we get a chance to bring to you. Special shout out to CFB Nation because they sponsored this one, everyone. And also special shout out because, man, I've been spending a lot of money lately, and to God to be the glory that we get a chance to spend it. But man, whenever I get a chance to do some parlays, I take my talents out there to Bet US, and I put in that promo. Why am I even telling you about it? Let them tell you.
Look at you out here using all these other sports books, and you ain't even using the best one. Bet US. Get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the offseason, even though we don't celebrate that. You know, CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7. But there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. Bet US has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money. It's not a war room. It's not a fancy hotel ballroom with lanyards like some of these and catered shrimp, meals that are so amazing. It's not those type of atmospheres. The real deal making in college football, it goes down under the hum and flickering fluorescent lights at a Waffle House fresh off of I-75. It's 3:07 a.m. and the grease, it just never sleeps. It's a red-eyed position coach in a wrinkled hoodie, just like mine, stirs his fourth cup of Joe. He eyes are locked with a player across from him, just a kid, and slides in a hoodie. But he was last fall's breakout Sunbelt quarterback and this spring's hottest free agent. He's got a JUCO edge to him, a handler with the sleight of hand badge. And now he's scrolling through all his group chats with Power 5 logos as profile pics. The table is sticky with from all the syrup. The offer is just scribbled down on a napkin. And you hear the bacon sizzling right behind them. And just like that, before the hash browns hit the plate, you get a verbal commitment and we get another drop. This is not recruiting. This is trench warfare in a 24-hour diner. Forget spreadsheets and depth charts. Roster building in 2025 is a flea market. With grits and bacon and an all-star special on the side. Let's talk about the looting in college football, transfer portal, and roster building. Let's talk about the Great Vanishing Act first, though, and start in Clemson, South Carolina, where Dabo's Tigers look like an old cassette tape in a Spotify world. They're bringing back 80% of their production. Their quarterback actually knows where the weight room is without a tour guide needed to show him. Their team is too deep and as juniors, as seniors, and that used to mean something in college football. Now, this makes Clemson look like the Amish, stoic, faithful, and wildly out of place. Meanwhile, in Tuscaloosa, the locker room, it looks kind of like a rotating Airbnb. Alabama lost 36% of his roster. Kirby Smart and his dad probably sent them boys 5 emojis and a scholarship offer link. Georgia's sitting at 54% retention right now, and no one flinched. But take those same numbers to Iowa City, and that's DEFCON 1. In Athens, it's just another Wednesday. Let's rewind the clock back a little bit for you to 2015. Over 70 programs brought back 65% or more of their production. In 2025, that number could fit inside of a Sprinter van with me, you that's watching, and your family. And we'll have room for our aux cord if anybody want to play Big X the Plug. The MAC is no longer a conference for you. It's a clearance rack. And these developmental programs are not just developing for Saturdays, Thursdays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, because if you're playing the MAC, you're going to be playing matching games. Now, they're not just developing that way anymore. They're developing ultimately for someone else's depth chart. Let's talk about the new hunting grounds, though, because they are apex predators. And then there's everyone else. Apex predator number 1 that you see on the screen. The Alabamas and Big Al, Georgia, and the Bulldog. Ohio State and them Buckeyes, they recruit, but they don't just recruit anymore. They acquire. They don't scout. They shop. It makes the portal look like Amazon Prime. Same day delivery on a Sunbelt quarterback that just threw for 2.5K yards. You toss in a 4-star tight end from Indiana State, and now we cooking with hot grease just like at Waffle House. Then you have the opportunists, the Lane Kiffins of the world. He doesn't just rebuild, he rebrands things. His entire scheme comes from air raid disciples. But if you take a look and mesh that with where we have right now in the world of college football, it's like Craigslist meets Mike Leach. Oregon's approach, though, you got to think Black Friday. You got to think, let's go to the ACC and snipe a whole ton of talent and bring them back over to the Pacific Northwest. Matter of fact, let's stay in sunny South Florida and talk about Mario Cristobal, because he could be flipping condos made of portal linemen like it's South Florida real estate, and nobody's even paying attention to this. Those are the predators, apex predators, the Lane Kiffins, the Kirby Smarts, the programs that are the juggernauts, the Juice. Your favorite program probably is one of those apex predators that you see in this world of college football ecosystem. And then you have the prey, the Bowling Greens of the world, the Akrons of the world, the NIUs that had to travel and change their conference for hopes to not get washed by everything else that's going on in college football with TV deals, realignment, and everything else. Bowling Greens scout or people in that's trying to recruit you could call you and tempt you with early playing time, and a recruit can respond back to you with, okay, that's cool, but what's your NIL buyout clause though? 1 year you're the feature player, the next year you're just inventory. And that's where it takes us back to the Clemson conundrum that we have. I'm showing Clemson because I've been there a handful of times. I got a chance to see this program up close and personal over the last 3 years of tour. And Dabo Swinney is the epitome of what you talk about, staying consistent in the midst of turmoil, staying consistent in the face of pressure. And when everybody wants you to go against your guns, he stays 10 toes down and says, nah, because that's culture. He could be looked at as one of those coaches while everybody else is using their smartphone, iPhone that just dropped. This man has a rotary dial and just using it the old-fashioned way. That's Dabo. He's got 85% production returning, though. That's going to read so beautifully, like a Shakespearean sonnet in a world that only speaks in disappearing Snapchat text. Loyalty used to be a virtue, and now it feels like a liability. Continuity used to be an asset. Now it's an overpriced luxury. You got Brent Venables out in Norman, has had a third of his roster replaced right now. His team's got more baggage than a TSA carousel, but SB Plus loves the new hall. And if you look at what their rankings are in the SB Plus post-spring model, you'll be able to see that he still was able to fit the pieces in and make it happen. Our overall projection of Oklahoma drastically shifts. Why? Because they have a quarterback now. They have an offensive coordinator. They have pieces that weren't there. But let me talk to you about the dark comedy of the transfer portal, because this is where it gets ironic for you. The funny way in making you laugh to keep from crying It's like the transfer portal. James Madison University, home of the Dukes, 58% continuity. Michigan State, home of the Spartans, aka Sparty, 66% returning production. Kansas State and the Little Apple returns 67% and is banking on development right now. Meanwhile, in Austin, Texas, the Longhorns are rolling out 51% and just Venmoed their entire offensive line. Say, hey, boys, steak dinner's on me tonight. Wyoming is bringing back 82% of their entire defense, boys, and still ranks in the SB Plus rankings like a JV squad. This is why I tell you, the algorithm does not care about your pillars in your rankings, bro. It cares about plug and play in this new transfer portal day and age. If you're a coach right now, let me give you a sticky dilemma to deal with. Option one, you can stick with your quarterback that you've developed already right now. He's a stable guy. He's loyal. He's always been there. He's going to show up for you. But he's also averaging 6.3 yards per pass attempt. And he's posting TikToks with inspirational quotes. It's just not getting better. But the SB Plus model is going to say that, hey, y'all boys going 7-5, and a booster is right now yelling at your wife in Costco, telling you to get your things together and put the backup in. You got option two. You can roll the dice on a true freshman, but he is raw prospect. Ultimately, though, he's yours. He's signed to your university. The SB Plus is going to look at that situation and say, yeah, he's a great locker room guy, but also you better enjoy the moral victories. And like the governor always says, there's no moral victories in the sport of survive and advance. Or coach, you can go at option three. You can bring in a 4-star, juiced up prospect, bounced around 2 different schools already. But guess where he's at, coach? In the portal. He's played for 3 teams that has 3 hoodies in the back of his car. The SB Plus model is going to look at that decision, coach, and say, yeah, that's a high ceiling, low floor, and overall amazing content for the message boards on Reddit. This is where we are right now in the looting of college football. The 2025 season hasn't even started yet. And some people are writing obituaries and making it just, you can just pull out a violin right now. College football arguably used to be a sport. And I feel like it's still the greatest sport on the planet Earth. But you can't deny that in 2025, year of our Lord, that it is turning into a hedge fund. Who got the most money in your investment portfolio with high turnover, low predictability, and emotional risk baked into every positional group? This is where we are right now in a wild and wacky world of college football. Continuity is a fairy tale right now. Chemistry is theoretical. And your defense coordinator just left in the middle of me talking right now. He's gone. When your team runs out of the tunnel this fall, half of the jersey numbers on your favorite squad are going to be different. We're going to see a lot of new faces. Most of them are going to be unfamiliar to you. But the expectations that you still have for your program when you look at the schedule, they have not moved an inch. So, boys, let's go grab your coffees. I'm going to go grab my Arizona. And we're going to pull up our depth charts. We're going to hold our breath because this is college football's flea market, a.k.a. the transfer portal. After this ad break, we're going to move into our deep dive on Utah Utes and everything that they're doing right now, because there used to be a time where people feared going into Salt Lake City. This is the Wrld of college football.
Look at you out here using all these other sports books and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS, get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the offseason, even though we don't celebrate that. CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7, but there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money. Shout out to you and yours. We appreciate you being here. Tune in to World of College Football. We hope that you have an amazing day. And thank you for all the support and love that y'all been showing to the content across the brand of CFB Nation. Make sure you stay plugged in with us throughout this offseason, even though we don't call it an offseason. And take a look at our sponsors, BetUS. We thank them for everything that they do. It's a lot of eyes, and we want to welcome you into the building. Shout out to you. Let's get deeper into the show and talk about Utah Utes in your program. If your fans watching, come pull up a seat. And let's kick it with your boy Moon. And let's talk about what happens when nobody fears you anymore. There used to be a time when lining up against Utah felt like a trip to the chiropractor with no anesthesia. It was like the most painful experience. You didn't just lose to them, you really felt it when you lost to them. You always heard the pads cracking louder in Salt Lake City. You always felt like the run fits were tighter in Salt Lake City. You always felt like when you see the red immersion in the crowd and all the crazy fans that they have out there in Salt Lake City, that your team didn't really have a chance because the body blows ultimately in the football game will just keep coming and punching down on you. And if you happen to escape Rice Eccles Stadium with the win, then we hold your hand and shake it. But ultimately, it's not just a W. It meant more winning in Salt Lake City. But that era right now, at least, is on pause. Or maybe some would say that it's over. But I'm here to talk to the fans right now. The 2025 Utah Utes are no longer the trench bully of the Pac-12. They are new kids on the block of the Big 12 in a world where track meets outplace bar fights. I said the wacky world of the Big 12 was like walking into a dark alley and everybody has knives behind their back. And it's just a gang of gentlemen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. That's what it feels like being in this current landscape. And where that point gets you is an invite to the party because you're now here. But ultimately, last year was not a pretty one for Utah. I mean, 5-7 in a world where you lose to BYU. Nothing more needs to be said, Moon. You started off with a joke like that early to start it out. Yep. But I gotta let you know and get straight to it. Utah enters the season ranked number 34 in SB Plus rankings, and this defense is top 25, but the offense is sputtering right now in the 60s. And I think that ultimately tells a story of transition. It tells a story of uncertainty, and it also tells a story of potential out there in Rice Eccles Stadium. And now that Cam Rising is officially gone into the sunset, mustache and all, it's like the whole state, besides BYU fans, are looking at this situation like, why should we care about this season beyond us being a donor, a fan? We're going to show up. We're going to do our part. But what is there to really love after 2024? And I'm going to start off by telling you, Utah Utes fans, There's a kid by the name of Devin Dampier who is going to be a catalyst for chaos in this 2025 season. And let me make one thing clear. Devin Dampier isn't Cam Rising. He's way more dangerous, and he doesn't have a mustache. He's raw, yeah, for sure. But he's got a bazooka arm, and he runs like he's mad. And the game is on the line. He takes his play up a notch. In 2024 at New Mexico, Devin Dampier put up 2.7 K yards, 12 touchdowns, and 12 picks. You might be like, Moan, why should I be excited about this kid? I understand it's not pristine, but here's the kicker. He had 1,166 rushing yards and 19 touchdowns on the ground. You said how many, Moon? 19 rushing touchdowns in 2024, year of our Lord. That's not a stat line, people. This is a revolution that's awakening here in Salt Lake City. And this is what Utah hasn't had in a while. A true dual threat that can make defensive coordinators play 11 on 11 football and not just load up and be one dimensional, taking everything pretty away from your offense. And speaking of the offense, under new offensive coordinator Jason Beck, who turned New Mexico into the fourth most prolific offense in the country, this might just be the perfect storm. You mean, Moon, you know Oklahoma actually put John Mateer with his former offensive coordinator. Yeah, he did that, and that's why everybody has a high projection on Oklahoma, because they're like, John Mateer is now on the show. Like, basically, we couldn't keep anybody healthy. If we could just get half our roster to show up unhurt, like, it would be a pretty day in Norman. But I'm telling you that it's similarities right now. Right now, we got brewing in Salt Lake City, because insert a same dynamic. You got your office coordinator coming, Devin Dampier, perfect storm. Let's talk about the wide receivers, because there's some things to note. It might not be the best wide receiver core in the Big 12, and it's not going to get more praise and more love than the Texas Tech or Arizona State or Baylor or, man, shoot, even the team that's across that we're not going to say the name, Utah fans. But there is some explosiveness and it's happening right now. You got Creed Whitmore. Let me start off with the bad side. He has 15 receptions in Starkville, Mississippi. So you might be like, Moon, there's nothing to get happy about. But listen, that doesn't change when you look deeper than the surface. This kid has some SEC route running. He has some Florida swag, and he also thrives off of misdirection and playing in open space. He's a jitterbug type of athlete, and he's the type of guy that you can motion and just to see how the defense flinches or not. He's going to be an impact player, and his name is Creed Whitmore. Pay attention to him. Then you have another kid by the name of Ryan Davis, because he's a walking mismatch at New Mexico. 747 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a quarterback carousel. I mean, they got some quarterbacks other than Devin Dampier, and I'm not going to hold you. The overall quarterback room after Cam Rising's departure has went up a notch, in my opinion. But you have to have players that can catch the ball and know what to do with it when they got the rock in their hands. And this kid, he's grown up in the room. And I think that he can be the guy that when you need a 3rd and 8 conversion the most, he can be the one that gives it to you. Then you compare that with Otto Tia, who is 6'4". He owned the red zone, and he did all that at Utah State. 7 touchdowns last season on 44 grabs. And I'm looking at his profile, and I'm like, yo, he can be a mismatch problem as well. You look on the outside. You pair that with Zacchaeus Williams, you got Dejan Zipper and Justice Stevenson. And then now you look at Utah's receiving core, at least at 2 deep. They got 6 deep in the receiving cores, and I'm looking at it as better than last year. Now, if you look at Devin Dampier as a quarterback and the main key in the engine, that turns the engine, you have to understand that the actual engine of this team is going to be the consistency that they have already been getting from the offensive line. If Devin Dampier is a joystick for this if he's a joystick, right? Like my Xbox controller, if he's a joystick, then the offensive line might as well be. This is the offensive line. They are the console. They are my console. You know, the offensive line is what keeps Utah together. And Spencer Final is an absolute monster, and who I'm going to start off first talking about. First team All American. And it felt like he got better every series last year. He's mean, he's mobile, and he's going to put in that work for you. And what you need for this offensive line to have stability is an ultimate leader. He is that. Looking at him. Then they got Caleb Lomu, who is going to be locking down the left side of the offensive line in 2024. He started all 12 games. He's 6'6", agile, and he's going to get to the second level with ease because he already showed that he can do that. Jaron Kump is coming in, and he's played everywhere on this offensive line. He's like a human Swiss Army knife, or if he's an offensive lineman, he'll be a human Swiss roll. But the point is that has 47 games and nearly 30 starts across 5 positions across his belt. I'm looking at that as badges of honor on this offensive line. Michael Kofisi might be the best kept secret in the Big 12, and he's been a road grader since his freshman year, coming in, dominating people. Utah averaged 4.8 yards per carry behind this group last year. And this is despite having to deal with a headache of a quarterback situation. So I'm expecting that number at 4.8 to go up with a threat like Devin Dampier, who is the Xbox controller to the offensive line's actual console. Let's talk about the running backs, because this group is deep, violent, and ultimately versatile. And this room can rotate at least 3 deep and still give you nightmares. Really, if you go 4. But I'm going to talk about the 3 deep of this Utah running back that you should know. Wayshawn Parker, he had 735 yards last year, 4 touchdowns. And he did that at Washington State. Now, he's going to be the type of running back that's going to see lanes before they open. He's not going to waste his steps when he's running the ball. You got Nicorey Rogers, and he's going to be like a wrecking ball type of running back that you can plug in. 5 touchdowns, 382 yards in the backup role at New Mexico. Plus, he was productive at his time at Campbell. He's going to be another tone setter that you need when you can rotate in the room. And if you ask any coach in college football, you want a running back room that can rotate. It's a long season, especially when you're trying to play for 16. They're trying to push it to 17, 18 games in the season if you're trying to win a natty. And then ultimately, you got to have depth. You got to have diversity. And I look at that, and I see Devin Green, the UNLV transfer, and he's going to provide some pop and some burst for you, because he's going to be like a change of pace, potential home run type of guy, Utah fans. And you're going to see him be able to get elusive in space. And don't be surprised when you see him in the end zone a couple of different times, just from the way that offensive coordinators really get busy with him and creativity that they can use with this running back room. Now, if you can't talk about the resurgence without talking about tight end U, you remember the days when Utah was like tight end U? Like, I understand, like, Dallin Bentley is not a Dalton Kincaid, but he is a sturdy type of tight end, and he started 7 games last year, and he blocks like an offensive lineman. So I'm looking at him. I'm looking at Landon King, who came from Auburn, and he scored against UCF last year. So I'm looking at him, 6'5", soft hands. I would say he's kind of turning into a vertical threat type tight end. But if he finds his rhythm, I think he can break out and be or at least be a breakout piece for this offense with Dallin Bentley. They have more explosion that's on the horizon for the offense when you mix in all these pieces, the continuity that you get from the offensive line. We gel that together, and now we have a safety net. You know what I'm saying? We got a safety net now, Utah fans. We got Devin Dampier. And then behind him, you still got 3 other guys that I could spend 5-minute segments on a piece just talking about them. So the offensive line is a consistency, but the quarterback room got better. Running back room is stable. I feel like the tight end room is growing. And I feel like the wide receiver room is going to add some spark that they need. They're going to have to trust on some guys, but they are loaded in the wide receiver room. Not the best wide receiver room in the Big 12. I'm not saying that, my friend, but I'm saying that they have some stability. Now, let's take a look at the backbone of the team, because I don't really have to spend much time on that. I did all of that talking just to sell you on the offense, because the defense is still the backbone of this team. SB Plus confirms what I just said, because the defense is top 25 and they're top 25 for a reason. This group isn't trying to match Texas Tech score for score, where it's a 49-52 shootout. They're trying to like take your breath away and make you not be able to think, period. And that starts with people like Smith Snowden, who is the real deal. He had 10 pass deflections, 4 tackles for a loss, a pick 6 to close the season out. He is just growing right before our eyes. And with a name like Smith Snowden, anyways, like, you already know he had to be cold. Then they got Tal Johnson, who is second on the team in total tackles. And he led the secondary in command. If I was him, I would be wearing the green dot if I was Tal Johnson, because he hits like a linebacker. He moves like a wide out. He knows how to read coverages. His growth on film is consistently standing out to me. Why? Because he's a see ball, get ball type of back end player that you need. Every team needs a guy like Tal Johnson. And that's the reason why I'm going to put defense as what I don't have to spend too much time on. I could sell you even again when I tell you that they have Lander Barton that's coming back. He has NFL roots in his family tree. His brother is in the NFL right now, and he's going to be an NFL prospect coming up very soon. And he had 6 passes defended, 72 tackles, and had to deal with a lot of adversity last year. But he can be the type of leadership piece in this locker room that can keep the coaches together, especially what Kyle Whittingham is trying to do, especially if he's trying to get banners to be around and hanging in Rice Eccles Stadium. Logan Fino, 6.5 tackles for a loss. His film just screams production and disruption. He's a pocket killer. This defensive line, it's mean. It's finally healthy, though. They got Vicali, Daly, Holtzclaw. All of them have breakout potentials. Ultimately, this team, their defense is the backbone. The offense, I spent most of the time talking about Utah, trying to sell you on that, because I know a lot of people have the most question marks on their offense. They were ranked SB plus 60 plus. You know what I mean? You know, that's the biggest question. But the 2025 schedule does have some wrinkles in it that we can exploit. Utah fans, it starts off August 30th, and I think we can get it popping. UCLA. They got games at West Virginia, Morgantown, WVU's defense. We already know that they are nasty in the red zone. Gonna have to take care of that early in the season. Arizona State, defending Big 12 champs. You know, it's revenge on our mind. ASU ranked last season, I think it was 7th in explosive plays. So you know you're gonna have to contain it if you want to look at like one of the feature high profile offenses versus elite defenses. That's the type of matchup that you look for. They also got BYU again, Baylor again, and later in the season. It's ultimately going to come down to the new wave and new understanding of Utah and Utah football. It's Utah's grit that made us fall in love with them. It made us really respect them and their brand. And ultimately, we bet on Kyle Whittingham to fight through the pressure no matter what. He was always going to find a way. You were never going to bet against him, for real. You couldn't come into last year. We had so much respect. I know Big 12 preseason polls come out. I'm looking at him like, dang, I can't bet against Utah. And ultimately, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain last year. But we could hold them accountable and still raise them to the discussion, because their team is loaded still. They're loaded. And they added some juice via the transfer portal, which we spent a lot of time talking about earlier in the show. They added some juice in the transfer portal. They have now injected new life into their offense. They have some consistency when you look at the offensive line. And I'm looking at the defenses, the stabilizing force in this team. They will be gritty. Kyle Whittingham still remains. Scally is going to be dialing up blitzes. And now Jason Beck is going to add some fire to the formula for this ball club. Now, it all comes back to where I started at, and I'm bringing it all full circle. Devin Dampier. If Devin Dampier delivers, Utah isn't just dangerous, they're scary in this Big 12 conversation because they're the ones in the alley with the you think it's a knife behind their back, but they got a bazooka. This man had over 15 plus rushing touchdowns last year, and I'm looking at him like, can he be the catalyst for the offense? So, what happens when no one fears you anymore? Well, if no one fears you anymore, then that's their advantage. But there's nothing more dangerous than a wounded program with nothing to lose and everything to prove. And in 2025, Kyle Whittingham's bunch has everything to prove in this Big 12 race. And that's why post Cam Rising era of Utah football still has hope. It still has hope. And they can bang on one thing and one thing for sure. That defense is going to be one of the best in the Big 12. You can bet on that. I'm your boy Moon, and this is Wrld of College Football. Hey, we thank you for making it all the way up to this point in the show on an episode where we talked about HBCU and a pulse of everything going down from Jackson State reloading on their coaching staff. And I mean, Jackson State did amazing last year, led top defensive in 16 different categories last year. We talked about them. We talked about a host of other HBCU programs that's making amazing moves. And we haven't even gotten to the big elephants in the rooms like the Michael Vicks, the Deshaun Jacksons, the other power players in discussions because there's so many storylines. And we started delivering on those. And we talked about also in the show looting in college football, the state of the transfer portal, and how it kind of turns into a flea market where people can just pick your player that you've been developing, Ball State. And this kid came in as a 3-star prospect, and now he just went for 1,500 yards. And now Ohio State calling up on the phone like, "Hey, you don't got to go that far. You don't got to go that far. I mean, we're right up the street. Like, why not? We can give you a bag too. You don't like a bag? Who don't like a bag?" We talked about that in the looting of college football, where some of the greatest deals that go on behind the scenes don't happen in boardrooms. They don't happen in, atmospheres that you normally think of. They happen at Waffle House at 3:00 in the morning with a coach that is trying to recruit a young kid to come to his school that just put up absolute numbers last year. These are the wacky and wild things that go on in the college football world and on the world of college football. We thank you for watching, bro. We really appreciate you staying here and being tapped in with us throughout this college football offseason, quote unquote, because we don't call it an offseason. We be trying to deliver like it's game day today. For me, Moan, the way this ever do it, send you into the day. Enjoy it to the fullest. More college football coming up on the platform. Make sure you stay connected. Make sure you stay tapped in with our sponsors, BetUS, and use that promo code CFB Nation so you can get that 125% deposit match, because who doesn't like to have money added to their total? I know I do when I'm using BetUS and trying to smack my parlay out of the building. We'll see you soon on the next episode. We'll talk about more that's going on in this wacky and wild world of college football. Until then, one.